order. Douglas will lead us in prayer.
Guidance to both.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America. Republic. One nation.
God.
For all. Okay, it looks like we have a quorum with 80% of us present. Fan meter absent. I get a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
I make a motion that we approve them.
Second.
All in favor? Can I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommending body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. Decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on July 16th, 2024. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meetings, please see Ms. Staylor to obtain a request to speak form. Any request public hearing will have a minimum of 10 minutes permitted per side for the presentation of opinions, data, and evidence by proponents or opponents of a request. The applicant will be allowed to speak first, and any member of the public may speak after. Either side may cede their time during the hearing if they so desire. Mystery?
Yes, so this is a postponed item from the June 6th meeting. It's a major S1 revision for 837 Furies Ferry Road on 7.94 acres. And the existing use is a place of worship. This is the location of the property, and it's north of on the Furies Ferry Road. The zoning is S1. And this is the aerial. So the original zoning for the S1 property was done in '93, and then in 2022, they added a portion of the site that was on the east side, and that's the current parcel. This is some side photographs. This is the existing driveway from Furies Ferry Road, and the building that's on site. This is the plat of the property. This is the 2022 approved plan that allowed a building expansion and a new parking lot with recreation areas as well. This is the proposed phase plan. What's different from June the 6th is that that site plan had a gravel parking lot that was meant to be temporary for 3 to 5 years, still showing the building expansion, and then the parking was towards the back, which was the revision to the S1. The applicant did not accept the 1-year condition for gravel, and with this plan they have removed the gravel completely and have shown the paved parking in 2 phases. This is the front portion of the site where you've still got the new driveway that'll be across from Hammond's Ferry, where the 24,000 square foot building expansion will be in phase 2. Phase 1 will just have a grassed area, and then you've seen where the 8,000 square foot building expansion is shown, which was different to the last plan. Then on the back part of the side, you've got the phase parking in 2 phases, which is 92 spaces, and then adding 76, and then the recreation will also be at the back. The future development map shows this in the neighborhoods area, and civic uses are allowed in there, and this is an expansion of an existing use. The staff is recommending approval to approve the S1 revision with a condition which is continued from the 2022 zoning for new development. All lighting on the site should be shielded and directed away from adjacent residential zone properties, photometric plan showing the foot candle measurements are 1 or less at the property line should be provided prior to site plan approval. That concludes staff recommendation.
Thank you. The owner, applicant, like to come forward?
Afternoon. My name is Philip Green with Southern Partners, 1233 Augusta West Parkway. I appreciate y'all hearing us tonight. As Ms. Mystery presented, this was originally a slightly different plan that had to be postponed. We appreciate your patience while we work through some of these issues and the client's desires and the county's requirements, and understandably reluctance to have a gravel parking that could remain for 3 to 5 years. So my client has decided to move ahead with the permanent parking side of that. They'll have the drive that comes around the far right side of the property to allow for that building expansion and tie into an asphalt parking there at the back. A couple of things we got to work through. Obviously, you can see there's some wetlands on the site, and we're having those. They've been delineated as non-jurisdictional, and we're getting the reports that the county files to ensure that that is appropriately taken. We are coordinating with DOT, contractor out there, ER Snell, and the county as far as realigning the driveway. We'll get all the necessary DOT permits from that, and the condition that's on there for the lighting, working with Georgia Power to create a lighting plan which will ensure we meet those requirements of 1-foot candle at the property lines. Be happy to answer any questions, or like to talk to the owner directly, or
Sounds good.
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One in the audience like to speak in favor of this revision? One in the audience like to speak in opposition? Could I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval with condition of file RZ 24-06-04 major S1 revision to revise the development plan for the 837 Fierce Ferry Road.
Second.
All in favor? Carries. Butler.
Under Sheriff's request for a temporary use authorization at 5863 Washington Road, currently zone M2, for a mobile office for T2 Earth LLC. This is the location of the property. Again, this is Pollard Lumber up near Washington Road, Rosemont. Says current zone of the property, again, currently zone M2. Lots of RA around this, and you have some other C2 and CC nearby, and some R4 as well. There's overall site plan. They're proposing a trailer right here, as we can see. Typically, y'all aren't seeing commercial temporary use authorizations. They're usually tied to a building permit. This one doesn't have a permit to tie it to, so we're having to go a little different route with this one. Again, right now it's good for a year. They can renew that. And again, so T2 Earth basically associated with Pollard Lumber, but they're not part of them. They're doing some work with them. That's the reason for the temporary use there. This aerial close-up shows kind of what we're dealing with the site itself. You're basically putting it right here. And also the proposed trailer itself, pretty standard construction trailer. Staff recommends approval of the request.
Thank you. Like to speak? Hang it.
We're a partner with Pollard Lumber. They're a great partner for ours. We've been in business for about 3 or 4 years. Got more people, we run out. So the little office that you can see, the bump out that Will showed, will house about 6 or 7 people. We've got 10 or 15, and we're all on top of each other. Temporary office building, and then we can put a permanent structure on.
Address, do you
Your name? What's your name and address?
Brad Broad Street, and my address is 512 Fort Augusta.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Huh?
Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of this temporary use? Anyone in the audience like to speak in opposition to the temporary use? Motion?
Chairman, I make a recommendation for approval for temporary use authorization. Washington Road. 036.
A second.
All in favor? Butler? Douglas?
Yes, so this is a application for rezoning at 1209 Lakeview Drive. This shows the location of the parcel, a little west of the city limits of Grovetown, again on Lakeview Drive out here in this area. As you can see, this parcel is zoned S1 for a concrete contractor's office. The greater surrounding area is largely residential in character, being zoned RA residential agricultural. So the concrete contractor's office is a little bit out of character for the area. This application is proposed to carve off a separate parcel from the broader S1 parcel and rezone it to RA for residential use for one of the property owner's relatives. We will show the proposed plan for that here in a second. Again, this is an aerial of the site, plat for the property. And this is the concept plan for, again, the subdivision. As you can see here in kind of the front rightmost corner of the parcel, you'll see a 2.5 acre parcel being subdivided from the greater S1 parcel. That 2.5 acre minimum is the minimum lot size for the RA zoning district. With residential rezonings from non-residential use, largely we don't see many issues with these. The only issue that comes into question here is with the establishment of the S1 zoning for the concrete contractor. A 40-foot buffer was established along all lot lines. You can see illustrated here that the 40-foot buffer is going to be maintained along the new established lot line, even for the residential parcel that's going to be created. And that causes a slight issue with the existing driveway, but staff has been in communication with the applicants to let them know that the alteration for the path of that driveway is going to be necessary. Staff's included some conditions regarding that as well, just to ensure that proper permitting is pulled for those changes, and we'll see those conditions here in just a second. It's in the rural neighborhood character area, so again, that means there's no issues taking a portion of this already S1 zone parcel and returning it to some RA zoning, again, for residential use that fits the character, as you can see on this and the zoning map a little bit more. And again, those conditions are just to ensure that the alterations to that driveway are made so that the 40-foot buffer on the S1 parcel is maintained and, that the driveway doesn't encroach upon that buffer. The second condition is also to ensure that that continues to be the case by ensuring that the new residential parcel will make its driveway off of Lakeview Drive rather than extending the existing driveway. Again, that way there's not a driveway running through the buffer. And then lastly, there's just a sort of an order of operations condition included to ensure that a subdivision plat is put on record for the new parcel that's being rezoned before any kind of permitting is issued for any work to be done on that, in that RA zoned area. That way, things are just kind of neatened up on the record side of this process. And so given those conditions, staff is recommending approval.
Kathy here, would you like to come speak?
I'm the owner of the concrete outfit, and that's our, lay down yard. No business itself. Concrete materials. We're cutting this partial off for my son back there. Starting a family and nice area there, and we have a lot of land there, and just like for him to be able to build.
Thank you. Anybody would like to speak in favor of this rezoning? Any audience in opposition to this rezoning? Motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval with conditions of file RZ 24-07-01, rezoning from S1 to RA for 2.5 acres of the property at 1209 Lakeview Drive.
Second.
All in favor? Carries.
Sheriff's request for a major pole revision out at Champions and on Champions Circle to allow proposed retaining walls to exceed 3 feet in height within a front building setback. Currently zoned planning and development. This is location of the property. Then Champions, and again, currently zoned planning and development. And everything around it is also zoned the same way. Aerial view of the site. Also the plat of the property dealing with the one that's got the little star on it there. So the issue with the site itself is it does have lots of topography on it. It slopes basically from the road down to the golf course. So it did require some changes to the site itself in terms of grading. Also, the building itself had to be kind of modified as well. Part of the reason for the walls is to basically make all the slopes work, essentially. The walls that we're looking at here, you have this one. That one will be 5 feet at its highest point. This one over here is 6 feet at its highest point because of the topography. Well, we'll see that in a minute. I won't get into that in a moment. It shows the walls. Again, currently, the max height on that one's 6 feet. The one on the other side is 5 feet. So with the walls themselves, they are basically the top of that wall is even with the road. So you won't be looking at the wall itself when you drive by. So everything is kind of below the slope. They're not really visible. The only people that can see it are really the property owners at the end of the day. That's one of the reasons that we're really in favor of allowing this to have that height to it. Plus the overall topography of the site itself, you're gonna have to make up some grade somewhere, and that's kind of how they address it. Again, typically, you can kind of look at other houses in the area. They've done it on the sides and the back, and it's one that can have more detrimental effects on your neighbors potentially. This is kind of a better way to go about it, but it does require essentially a variance to make it work. Due to all those factors, staff has really no concerns with it and recommends approval of the request.
Thank you. The owners and applicant like to come forward?
Bill Eastler on the builder. And as like Will said, we didn't have another option except dig the lot down to get already back. Digging down. Once we get it landscaped and laid out, really never gonna. It's all of that front view right here. It's gonna be all parking.
Thank you. Anybody would like to speak in favor of this revision? Ordinance in opposition to the revision? Can I have a motion?
Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of file RZ 24702, major PUD by retaining walls exceeding 3 feet.
Second.
In favor? Carries. Montgomery?
Yes, sir. This is a request for a variance to section 90-53, list of lot and structure requirements to reduce the side setback to 0 feet at 615 Emerald Crossing. This property is located off Southern Pines Drive in the Jones Creek Plantation subdivision. It is currently zoned R2, single-family residential, as are all the immediately adjacent properties. This property does back up to the railroad tracks, and you can see on the opposite side of the railroad tracks, there's some industrial zoning. This shows the aerial of the site. It is largely undeveloped, primarily wooded at this time. And to the kind of southwest, the adjacent parcel is an open space for the community. It is owned by the HOA. So this shows the existing site. On the right is the lot in question. On the left is the HOA kind of common area. You can see the walking trail and the pavilion there. And the request is to reduce the side setback against that HOA-owned property to 0 feet to allow the proposed house plan on the property. They do have a side-loading garage layout. That does require a little bit more site width to make the turning radius into the garage work. That's a very typical layout in this development. If you drive through there, all of the houses that I drove past anyway all have kind of side-loading garages like this. So this is appropriate to continue in this neighborhood, but it does take up a little more width on the lot. There's nothing really restrictive on the lot itself. Topographically, it's fairly level. It's larger than your typical R2 lot. It does have plenty of space. So in this case, the unique circumstance is not so much a limitation of the lot as it is that it's next to HOA property. So we're not impacting an adjacent resident. The HOA has approved of this request, has kind of worked with the property owner, put some conditions on how they have to go about cleaning up and maintaining the HOA property during construction and after construction. But with those conditions in place, they're in favor of this request, and since they are the most impacted property owner, with them in favor of it, staff doesn't have any particular concerns with approving it. However, there are a couple conditions regarding the building construction itself. Since it is a 0 foot setback, it does have to meet the fire-resistant construction standards. and it is in the standard drainage and utility easement on that side property line, so it does need an easement encroachment agreement. That's already been submitted, and it's in progress kind of in conjunction with this application. And that concludes the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Lopez, would you like to come forward?
Good evening, everyone. This is, I'm Jim Lopez, and my wife, Nazrin. So we've purchased this property in 2003, so it's been over 20 years for the property. Since then, while I was on active duty, pretty much purchased over 4 different plans for the property. We finally found a property that, or plan that would fit on the lot, and then builder that would go do it. First laid out the property. The driveway was originally on the left side, adjacent park space, but side of the boundary. That didn't work, so we went back to the way. They made the recommendation that we change the plan so that the driveway is on the right side of the property. So we've done that. We've been talking with Mr. Randy, HOA president. We planned the plot, paperwork to him. Had a discussion with the builder. He agreed that if we made options, documentation support your staff, and your staff has paperwork I received. They have recommended approval. Our family will be very grateful. County community over years.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone in the audience like to speak in favor of this variance? Audience like to speak in opposition to the variance?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval with conditions of file VA 24-07-01, variance to reduce the side setback to 0 feet at 615 Emerald Crossing.
All in favor? Opposed?
Under Sheriff's request for variance, section -98 lists lot and structure requirements, -147 use provisions at 4329 Bel Air Frontage Road. Reduced building setbacks allow the proposed drive-through location on the property currently zoned C2, general commercial. This location on the property in the intersection of Bel Air Frontage and Jimmy Dice, also I-20 as well on the north side. Currently, a lot of stuff over there is already zoned C2. You got some M1 down the street, and everything kind of backs up to this R3 as well. But again, currently zoned C2. Here's an aerial view of the site, also the plat of the property. And the existing site, again, used to be a Steak and Shake. The plan is to scrape it and put a Chick-fil-A there. There's a concept plan, so what we're dealing with is you have this drive-through kind of wraps around here. One of the issues with the site itself is it's within the corridor protection overlay district. Within that corridor protection overlay district, you can't have the drive-through between the street and the building itself. So this one's got some problems. That's why we have a variance request going before us. Then also you have this little kind of structure that's to protect everybody that's taking orders as well. That doesn't meet the building setback. It's got a 125 on this side. But on Bel Air frontage, there is the potential to also not meet it on that side for the building. That's less of a concern. This is a little bit different Chick-fil-A than what we've normally seen in the area. It is drive-through only. It does have a little area you can sit. You could basically order, and you could walk up to an order, but you're not going to be able to go inside and eat. So the design overall, the reason for a large drive-through is it's only for the most part, but also to allow for lots of stacking. It makes sense from our standpoint to allow for that much, for a lot of stacking on Chick-fil-A's. You've probably seen them; they're kind of busy. So again, one that's drive-through only would need quite a lot of room for the drive-through itself. Again, the other thing too is that it is pretty hard to make this thing work without having a variance to that section. You got a minimum of 2 right-of-ways, really 3 to deal with on a property that only has 4 sides to it. So again, makes sense to have that request there. In terms of the little ordering area, that's very much an accessory to the main use. Not really a problem in our mind. to reduce building setbacks for that. The other thing too, this kind of shows what it will look like potentially. Again, not 100%, but that's kind of what we're dealing with in terms of that. Lastly, we do have a condition with the overall plan itself. The landscape plan will be prepared by a licensed landscape architect. Pretty standard that whenever we do a reduction or a change with the drive-through location, to have that, allows for them to maybe have a better design in terms of screening. Overall, really no concerns with this. They have been working with our fire department on some internal changes to allow for some slightly wider drive aisles, so the fire trucks can get through there as well. So again, no issues outside of one condition.
Applicant, like to come forward? State your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Nate Fuss with Bowler Engineering on behalf of our client Chick-fil-A. As Will mentioned, this is a new concept for Chick-fil-A. They only have a few of these throughout the country. They're starting to slowly roll them out. It's a drive-through only. Like Will mentioned, it's almost 3,000 square feet. It's about 2,800 square feet. So that's really why we've got to why we're requesting these variances is to increase stacking. You know, that's going to be the biggest thing here. We really want to keep all the traffic off Blair Frontage Road. So in order to do that, you know, with how the parcel is, it's, you know, it's triangular parcel. So we're trying to scoot that building up as close to Blair Frontage as we can and kind of stack all the way back. Those are a couple of the hardships, you know, facing the free right-of-ways all the way around the site. Another kind of design challenge is, y'all may know there's those Tesla charging spaces out there. We do have to keep those, so we're going to have to kind of design around that. The plan is to scrape the existing Steak and Shake that's out there, keep the stormwater pond. As Will mentioned, we were working with the fire department. We'll adjust. I think they had a couple comments on the curb radiuses for the fire truck turn. We have no problem addressing any comments there. And then we've also been working with Randy and Curtis in the traffic department. They've reviewed our traffic study. We're going to make a couple off-site improvements, but other than that, happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
The audience like to speak in favor of this variance? The audience like to speak in opposition to the variance? Motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval with condition of file VA 0702. Variances to reduce the front setbacks and permit a drive-through between the building and the road at 4329 Bel Air Frontage Road.
Favor? Carries. County Attorney Driver.
Says there's no legal matters tonight.
Legal matters, okay. I have to apologize to Ms. Stoller. Stated your name, had a senior moment. Going around now. Anything else? Any comments from the public? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
In favor?